Hello, welcome. In today's episode, we'll be talking about the Austrian counter-gambit against the Queen's Gambit. It begins after the moves d4, d5, c4 and c5. This is a very aggressive approach to the Queen's Gambit, but it is not refuted or bad at all. It was played by Hikaru Nakamura last year to defeat the world champion Ding Liren. It is often played by even international masters or grandmasters in classical tournaments in order to surprise their opponent right away. On your right hand side you can see all the variation list. In the description there are timestamps, so you can just skip to the variation you're interested in. And now sit back, relax, and let's dive to the theory of the Austrian counter-gambit. Here white have a couple of moves. They can take on d takes c5. They can also take with the c pawn, so c takes d5. They can develop this knight in order to protect this pawn. They can develop this knight in order to pressure this pawn. And they can also play e3. And we'll begin with the move e3. This is the most solid approach. As you can see, white is simply protecting this pawn. Here I recommend exchanging these pawns. They cannot really capture the queen because after e6 you are able to play, after knight f3 you are able to play knight c6, developing with the tempo. After queen steps back you are able to play knight f6. And here your plan is bishop b5 and short castle, and you are able to get a very pleasant position out of the opening. So therefore e takes d4 is the main move here, and I recommend knight f6, protecting this pawn. I skipped today last move. Knight f3 is the main move here, and bishop g7 is a very clever approach, I think. This g6 and g7, bishop g7 move, the idea behind it is to put a long-term pressure on this a8 e1 diagonal. Here white can play c takes d5, which is the main move here. We are going to recapture right away, and here black is actually winning after bishop c4 almost 60% of the games, because you are able to recapture this knight. And after b takes c3, queen c7, and you are putting long-term pressure on this pawn. Black is forced to defend the bishop because they cannot step back. They are simply losing the pawn with check. Of course you are not winning a rook here. I drew an arrow in the wrong way, because after bishop b3 you are not winning a rook, but you are still up a pawn. You are able to go there, blocking the castle possibility, and this position is almost winning for the black side. After queen d3 you are going to develop your bishop with bishop f5 with tempo, queen e2, knight c3, knight c6, and putting more pressure on this pawn in the future. They cannot play d5 here because actually they're right now losing a rook via this fork. Instead they will play short castle, and you're able to short castle. Your plan involves trading this bishop, opening this line, putting your rook on c8 to get even more pressure on this c3 pawn, and you will be able to win it after a couple of moves, and you achieve a totally pleasant and better position out of the opening. And they can also play queen b3. This is a lot sharper approach, and you will counter it the higher you are in the rating ladder. And here do not capture this pawn because white just get a lot of activity and they're almost winning after d5. Instead play again bishop g7, c takes d5. You are not going to recapture right away because you're simply losing a piece here. And simply losing a piece because, like, yeah, this is just a blunder, so don't do this. Instead play bishop g7 and c takes d5, short castle here, and after bishop e2 you're going to play queen b6. And this is a very interesting move, and you might say, well, after capture and after a takes b3 I have weak double pawns. But actually this b6 pawn is not weak at all, because white have no way to attack it whatsoever. After knight f3 you're going to play this very interesting knight a6, and after short castle you're going to play knight c7, and as you can see you are pressuring this pawn. And here black again is winning almost 60% of games, because after bishop c4, rook d8, threatening again to capture this pawn, rook d1. As you can see, white have no way to defend this pawn. You're going to capture and capture. And here this position is simply better for the black side. You have a very active knight. You're putting pressure on this pawn. You're putting long-term pressure on this diagonal. You will be able to put your bishop here to try to put pressure on this knight. And after something like b takes d5, bishop takes d5, you are able to centralize your rook, develop your bishop to the active square, and utilize the spin to win this pawn after a couple of moves. So again, you will get a very pleasant and better position out of the opening. Bishop c4 is another move, here rook d8, right away, knight f3, and again this maneuver, but after bishop f4, as you can see, do not go here because they can capture you. Instead capture the queen, exchange them, and go knight b4, threatening a fork, rook a5, also you are threatening to capture this pawn, so white is defending it, bishop f5, developing a bishop to active square, short castle, b6, kicking the rook right away, and playing knight d3, trying to attack this pawn, and this bishop, and this position is again simply better for the black side. And they can also play bishop f3 instead of bishop c4, bishop f3, but you are able to exchange, play rook d8, and again knight a6, knight c7. So as you can see, the e3 variation is not very scary. Your plan involves exchanging, playing knight f6, g7, fianchetto to the bishop, either recapturing the knight or putting long pressure with knight a6, c7. And now let's move to the second variation of today's video. Okay, now let's talk about knight f3 line. Here after c takes d4, they have three options. They can either capture the knight, capture the queen, or capture the pawn. Here let's start with queen takes d4. We are going to play e6, protecting this pawn, c takes d5, e takes d5, knight c3 developing the knight, knight f3 also developing a knight, bishop g5, this is the most common line. You're going to protect your knight with bishop e7, and here very cool trick, they cannot capture, thinking that they are winning a pawn because you have this intermezzo and you're winning a queen. If they play e3, which is the correct move, knight c6, bishop b5, pinning this knight also, short castle, trading, short castle, h3, kicking this knight out, bishop out, bishop h4, and e3, bishop e6. Of course, this is just a sample line, but I would also prefer to play black. Here we are, you can play c5 in the future, you can put your rook here. This position is about 0-0 according to Stockfish, but I would again prefer to play black. And they can capture with the knight, but this is not a particularly good line, although this is the most popular. You're going to play e5, getting a lot of space, and knight f3 and d4. Here they cannot capture this pawn because they are simply losing a piece. Instead they have to play e3. You're going to develop your knight, trade those pawns, bishop d6, bishop d3. Here very cool trick, queen e7 with check. After this move you have bishop b5 with a lot of activity, and if they play bishop e2, which is the best move, but here you have bishop g7, short castle and long castle. Here very aggressive line. Your plan will involve playing e3, for example after h3 you can play e3, and here after something like h takes g4 you are winning a piece here to this fork, this pawn is protected, and after bishop takes d3 you are going to play knight d5, utilizing a lot of pins, knight takes e3, and this position is simply better for the black side. And they can also play here h takes d5, g4, but here rook takes d3, and you again have a lot of activity. Of course, this is just a sample line they can play. They can play, for example, here bishop d3, or they can try to activate their knight, but here d3 again. I don't know, this position is -0.5 for the -0.3 actually for the black side, but again I would love to play with the black pieces in this position. And the last thing we have to look at is capturing this pawn. This is the best line according to the engine, but knight f6 here, and they can capture the queen, but queen takes d5, knight c3, capturing this queen, playing e6, a6, kind of Najdorf style, blocking these knights. e4 is the most popular move, but e5, and you get a pleasant position here. And they can also capture with the c takes d5, knight f6, and they can capture the knight. You are going to capture the knight. a4, e4 is the most popular move. Knight f6, knight c3. They cannot play e5 because you are winning a pawn here. Knight c3, e5 here by the black side. And bishop b5 with tempo, trading this bishop, and here after knight takes knight d b5, again a6. For example, this trade, knight is forced to go to a3, you are doubling their pawn, hiding your king to the safety, and this position is simply better. They can play also knight f3 in this position instead of knight bd5, but against knight f3 you're going to pin. You can give up this pawn because you're winning this pawn, and you're threatening to fork, you're threatening to win this pawn. Again, this is about an equal endgame, but I would prefer to play black in this position. Again, simple continuation will go like this. This king is a little bit weak, and you will be able to activate your knight, your rook, put some pressure, maybe some pins using this c3 pin. This is of course not the theoretical position, but it's just a sample position showing how great the Austrian counter gambit is. And now let's move to the third variation of today's episode. Okay, now let's talk about this setup. Here again you are taking in the center. Knight takes d5 is a losing mistake here, e6, knight f4, and you have a huge development lead you are going to develop here, and it's about -2 according to Stockfish, but this is a very rare move. In most of your games you will gather queen takes d4, knight c3, attacking this queen, and here very important, bishop e3, not capturing the queen. And in this position, 85% of people, according to Lich's database, capture the queen. And this is almost a losing mistake. Around 10% of them will play queen b5. And this is considered to be one of the best, if not the best engine line against the Austrian counter gambit, and I will give you a way to handle it in a moment. But let's first look at the queen takes d8, rook takes d8, and here, why this position is so good for the black side? Well, simply e3, and they are losing a rook. They cannot go there because their queens knight takes knight c2 check, queen e2, and here bishop takes c4, king f3, and they are losing a bishop. If for example here they will play d8 again, and they will play knight f3, the same stuff again. If they play b3, which is all three of the four most popular moves, loses on the spot. The best move is bishop d2 in this position, giving up this pawn and doing long castle. Long castle is the most popular move in this position. Knight f3, knight f6 you're going to develop, knight f3, e6, you're going to trade this bishop and prepare an attack. You're going to play bishop b5, b5, bishop b4, b5, you're going to put your rook here, and you have a very active position. Still black is winning a lot of games here. So 3 out of 4 main moves here are losing on the spot, and the fourth is a little bit of dubious. But they can play queen b5. Here a6, and again, it's extremely unlikely that any d4 players will be prepared in this variation. First of all, the Austrian counter gambit is very rare, and second of all, even here, most of the people under 1800 capture this pawn. And this is a losing mistake, knight d4 here, and knight d5, but you can go knight c2, but I recommend capturing and going knight f6, simply getting this pawn, and you have a lot of activity here. And this queen might be in danger. You are threatening this, you are threatening to knight f, for example, this is the line you are just simply threatening, and actually white have no way to avoid it. You are going to get this pawn back, and this position is very pleasant for the black side. So they cannot capture on b7, instead they have to play queen a4, so again another precise move. Here we are going to play g6, e3 is a common approach, bishop g7, if something like in bishop d2, again they are in trouble, because long castle is very dangerous in this position. You are going to go rook c8 in the long plan, but first knight f6, for example long castle here, and you are -3. According to Stockfish, you have a lot of activity, you have clear plans to attack, protect. This pawn will be weak. You will be able to enter your queen maybe in the future there, if the bishop will be not there. You have a lot of possibilities. So again, then they have to be very precise with knight f6, knight f3, knight f6, bishop e2, knight d7, maneuvering this knight, capturing this knight on c3, and this is my recommendation. You are going to capture this pawn, and this is the position that you might end up with. This is about +0.3 for the white side. Okay, this is a weakness, but and not very scary one. You can play queen c7, like bishop h6. You can capture here, and queen takes e2, and for example rook f e8. I would prefer to play white here, but it's extremely unlikely that white will be able to know that much fury. And again, this position is still, of course this is playable, it's plus d2 for the white side. You have very active knight. Your plan would be to put your rook here, attack this pawn. You have to be careful about this bishop, but it's about, according to glitches database, it's about 50-50 this position. And white have to be really prepared for this variation with queen b5, queen a4, and not long castling with knight f3. So now let's move to the another variation of this Austrian counter gambit. Now let's talk about this variation, one of the two main variations, d takes c5. Here we are going to play e6. After c takes d5, which is the most popular move, the second most popular move is b4. I don't really know why, that's just not this. That just hangs a rook. So you are more than welcome to win the rook on your fourth move. C takes d4, and now b takes c5, and here a very common move and a trap, d takes e6, losing a queen via bishop f2 check. The most popular move is knight c3, here knight f6, taking this pawn, trading this, capturing this bishop. And as you can see, you have a lot of activity for this pawn. For example, after knight f3, knight c6, e3 is losing, and this is the most popular move. Knight b4, bishop b5, queen e7, short castle, knight c2, attacking this rook, and this bishop takes e2, and you are simply winning this rook. If they play something better, the second most popular move is a3, blocking this knight. You are going to go short castle, bishop e3, not trading this bishop, but rather bishop e7, g3, knight d5, activating this knight, bishop g2, knight takes e3, achieving a bishop pair, knight takes e3, and developing a rook. You have a bishop pair, and this pawn will be weak in the future. White is slightly better, like plus 0-1 according to Stockfish, but I would prefer to play black, especially in shorter time controls such as rapid or a blitz. And that was one of two main lines in the Austrian counter gambit. Okay, and the last variation is c takes d5. This is the main line. We are going to recapture the queen. Here knight c3 and knight f3 are the most popular move. Knight c3 is very pleasant for the black side. You are going to capture, capture, capture. Knight b5 is not scary. You have to remember knight a6, defending the square. Knight takes d4, and here e5, getting a lot of activity. Knight b5, bishop b4, knight c3, knight d7, bishop d2, knight c6, maneuvering this knight. For example, a3, trading this, and knight c5. This is a pleasant position for the black side. You are going to develop with bishop e6. You can play short castle, you develop your rook to d8, so knight c3 is not particularly scary. Knight f3 is the most popular move, c takes d4, and here. And they can capture the queen. This is again a pleasant position for the black side after this exchange. Here remember a6, we do not want to allow this knight. Knight c3, knight f6, e6, and again e5, knight f3, knight c6. So this is the position you are going to end up with. This is about an equal, but again, short castle, rook c8, rook d8, and you are set to go. Again, it's better to play these positions than to get tortured in the Catalan structures. If they play knight c3, and this is considered the best line in whole of the Austrian counter gambit, but you're going to play queen a5, knight takes d4, knight f6, bishop d2, striking again with knight e5, with e5. Here, if they go knight b3, it's all great because you go queen c7, e7, bishop e6, bishop b5, block this check, short castle, and develop to e7. Again, you're going to short castle, utilize this semi-open rank, go with rook e8, and you are set to go. If they, however, play knight db5, which is a great line from the engine standpoint, you're going to go with queen b6, bishop e3. You are going to trade those bishops. If knight d6, which is the most popular move, you have to remember this queen e7. This position is very good. If there would be a black square bishop, this would be a problem, this pin, but there isn't one, so it's a great position. It's equal according to the engine, but you have clear plans you're going to develop. You can double the rooks on c-file, and black king side is underdeveloped, and your king is safe here, so you have no problems. They can play queen d6 here, queen d6 here, and you are going to exchange those queens. Here this is a little bit different position, but again you have a very active knight, you are threatening some things in the future. You can play a6 with tempo. Yeah, and I think that's all. Important note, there are some lines in which white is able to gain like +0.3 or +0.4 advantage, and I decided not to cover them in today's episode because they are simply extremely rare, and I'm talking about like 2%. Like there are lines in which white is able to gain a small edge, but you'll encounter them according to Lich's database in 1 out of 1000 moves. And I do not simply understand the idea behind them, so you don't really need to be worried about them. Also, I'm not talking this is like the best approach to 1d4. I am saying you will be able to get a great position, it's very active, you will be able to train your tactical vision, you will be able to surprise your opponent. Also, you will have more time than your opponent after the opening, because they will have to think on your own, and as you have seen, there are many tricky lines in this counter gambit, and you will be in your familiar territory. So thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, comment and subscribe. You can also type which opening I should cover next, or which chess episode I should record next. Thank you for 100 subscribers or so, and see you in the next one. Bye.